With the recent release, or re-release, of Overwatch 2 and its new free-to-play model, the game has seen a massive influx of new and returning players. And in this video, my goal is to help new players ease into Overwatch, or returning players brush up or learn what new heroes bring. If you're looking for a specific character, I'll have timestamps linked below. Now you might be asking yourself, what makes this sticky Cemtex dude qualified to tell me, a pro gamer, how to play this game? I mean, he's not even Grandmaster or even placed higher than Plat 1 in Overwatch 1. I mean, his biggest accomplishment was placing Diamond in a limited time competitive TDM game mode. He's bad at games, he's possibly overweight, can't hold down a job or satisfy his wife. But despite those hostile allegations you just threw at me, only half of those are true, and I've played consistent enough to understand how the game works, even if I have the aim of Michael J. Fox on a snowy day. At the end, I'll also give a few settings that may help new players in the game. In Overwatch 2, they reduced the number of tanks from 2 per team down to 1, but by doing so, they made the role more important, and they made it stronger than ever. So without further ado, let's start off with the tanks.
Glorious, if I do say so myself.
Reinhardt was one of my starting mains when playing Overwatch for the first time. He's equipped with a shield that can absorb 1200 damage before breaking. The secret is to know when you should have your shield up, or when you should just absorb the shots with your health pool. If you can help it, you never want to let your shield fully break, as it will take longer for it to repair back to full. This is a passive repair, so you don't need to do anything other than just survive long enough to be able to use it again. Your job as Rein? Simple. Make and take space for your team, while also absorbing and mitigating as much damage as possible. He's equipped now with 2 fire strikes, increased from his 1 in Overwatch 1. These act as a projectile, meaning you'll have to predict where the enemy will be by the time your strike gets to them. His strike can also pass through multiple targets. Now with the addition of the second strike, you can actually kill a squishy like a tracer if you manage to land both of them. His second ability is a charge that can insta-kill almost, if not all, healers in DPS. Except under some conditions. In this game, they give you the ability to stop the charge if you're off the target or getting too close to an edge, which makes it 100 times more useful. It can be used in other ways too, like it can be used to rejoin a fight quicker if you charge right out of spawn back to your team, or even to retreat with your remaining team out of the fight. Since Rein is so big and wearing so much armor, his normal movement speed is quite slow compared to others. Now, let's not forget Rein's weapon of choice, his massive, beautiful, scrumptious, succulent hammer. Sorry, I lost focus for a second. Rein can do devastating damage with his hammer swings, which makes him someone to fear if you're in his range. So, all summed up with Rein, you want to try to take as much space by walking towards the enemy team, blocking damage with the shield and using natural cover to let your shield regenerate until you're close enough to start swinging and dealing a lot of damage. Now let's talk about his ultimate. Rein's Earth Shatter does exactly what it sounds like. He smashes the earth with his hammer, knocking down and slightly damaging anyone within a certain cone, giving your team or yourself a chance to clear them while they can't fight back. This is usually followed up by a couple fire strikes or some hammer swings or just charge if it's a single target. You want to keep in mind this ult, like many others, can be blocked with a shield. So if there's an enemy shield, try to time it so you can do it as it drops, or if you can manage to, pull off a sneaky flank from behind. Now remember, with Rein, you'll always want to be in the front line, protecting your team behind you, like the little helpless piss babies they are.
Orisa online.
Orisa's had many changes in Overwatch 2, which in my opinion make her a lot more fun to play. She did lose her shield from the first Overwatch, but she gained instead a spear spin that absorbs damage and even ultimates if timed perfectly. I've only done this twice on complete accident. It's very satisfying if you do. You only absorb damage for a few seconds at a time, from the direction you're looking, but also, if you run into enemy players while using this ability, it will knock them back, which makes for good environmental kills, while simultaneously dealing a fair amount of damage. Moving on to her secondary fire, a spear throw. Now this is the most fun for me. She throws her spear as a projectile, dealing loads of damage and possibly pinning an enemy to the wall, causing them to be immobilized for a second, which in Overwatch is huge when every character likes to jump, fly, or levitate. This can make for good cleanup kills on low HP targets trying to retreat. I learned pretty quick there's very little drop on this, so for the most part just throw it directly at them, or if it's long distance, just above the head. Now her primary weapon of choice is actually her hand. Yeah, she actually just chokes the shit out of people, and then goes up next to their ears and says, "I'm gonna watch the light go out." No, but her hand is actually a machine gun, firing unlimited amount of bullets without reloading, but is prone to overheating if you don't let up on the trigger enough. It does take a while to get there, so I doubt it'll be an issue too often, but just keep it in mind. The spread of the bullets isn't super tight, so tracking is occasionally a little hard to do. The bullets don't hit super hard either, but they do fire at a high speed, so if you manage to land multiple headshots, you'll have an easy time picking up kills, or at the very least finishing kills. Her last ability is turning herself into an immovable machine. This mode will only last for a few seconds, but while in it, she will gain health and reduce all damage taken. Just for herself though, not the team. But also while in this state, she can't be pinned by Rein, she can't be punched off by Doomfist, she can't be knocked back in any way. Also when she's in the fortified mode, she can walk out of some ults like Zarya's grab for example. And lastly, her ultimate swings and charges her spear like a helicopter, briefly pulling any nearby enemies in before slamming it to the ground, dealing varying levels of damage. It can charge up to 500%. The longer you charge, the longer it takes, but the more deadly it becomes. But if you take too long, it gives enemies a chance to run away from it. But if you're ever in overtime on a point, it's best to fully charge it, since you either have to leave the point or just sit there and die. Now your job as Orisa is the same as Rein. Make space and absorb some of the damage, and do damage yourself or break enemy shields while you're waiting for your absorb ability to recharge. I'd say Orisa is a good new player friendly pick, since she can do more from her range and is decent at both blocking and damage with a big health pool.
Sigma, present.
Sigma's probably one of the final tanks that's best for straight up blocking damage in my opinion. I think these three mitigate the damage the most, for the simple fact that they have the best deflections or shields. Sigma is equipped with a mobile levitating shield that can be pushed as far as you want or until it hits a wall, and retracted back at will by pressing the same button. Because it's mobile, his shield health is less than Rein's, but it's also because of his first ability, Kinetic Grasp. This absorbs any projectile and bullets and turns them into shields that act as temporary armor, allowing him to take more damage for his team while his shields are regenerating. This can also eat some ults like Cassidy and Reaper. His next ability forms a giant throwable gravel pile that acts as a projectile with a heavy drop, so you will have to aim high for it to travel over long distances. But this gravel pile also knocks over anyone it hits, stunning them for a moment. It can also be used to cancel some ults and deal some damage. It can interrupt people like Reaper, Cassidy, Pharah, and a few more. His weapon of choice are hyperspheres. He launches 2 at a time that can bounce off platforms once before exploding, acting as projectiles. They do massive damage if enemies are hit directly, making him great at blocking and delivering damage. His ultimate, Gravitic Flux, lifts up and suspends anyone in the radius of the ultimate, and slams them back down harshly to the earth, dealing loads of damage. His job is similar to the previous two: make room for your team, and deal damage while waiting for your blocking abilities to regen.
Winston reporting.
Winston, also known as Monkey, racially motivated, is known as a dive tank, thanks to his first ability, his jump pack, allowing him to soar through the skies covering ground very quickly. Landing on enemies deals slight damage, followed by his next ability, his barrier, and a mobile shield dome that protects anyone inside briefly. Can't withstand much damage, so it's more to briefly protect yourself or maybe one other teammate. But the radius is pretty small, so unless your whole team is bunched up, you probably won't be mitigating much damage from the whole team. But his weapon of choice is a Tesla cannon that just connects to the closest enemy when in range, dealing steady damage. There's no aiming required, so it's a good pick for someone who maybe doesn't have the best aim or just doesn't feel like aiming. I can aim, I swear, I just don't feel like it right now. If I started to aim, you guys would be so fucked. You gotta have the game sense to know when to get in and get out. His ultimate, Primal Rage, makes him go Mad Monkey mode, and he can jump much more frequently while also punching and severely knocking back targets, mainly great for environmental kills, or trapping a single target in the corner and punching them until they die. Pretty primal, am I right? Now your job with Monkey is to dive easy to kill targets in the backline, mostly support players that can't fight back. They just sit there screaming for mercy.
Did someone call a doctor?
No, not that Mark. And then your team says, hey, good job, Monkey. And you have to wonder if they were being nice or racist. Anyway, you also need to have the awareness not to commit to a fight you're not going to win, and fly back to your team so you're not just feeding the other team ultimate charge. They recently added another ability to Winston. His right click charges up as a hit scan. This beam makes him more viable at medium distances instead of only close range.
Is this easy mode?
Even if you never played Overwatch, I'm sure you've seen at least 5 cosplays of D.Va. One of the most popular tanks in Overwatch, her first ability launches a cluster of missiles that deal a good amount of damage when they connect. Next abilities are boosters. This allows her to fly for a short amount of time in any direction, allowing her to close the space between herself and enemies. Followed by her defense matrix, which allows her to eat and absorb almost anything except for beams. She can also eat projectile ults if perfectly timed, and her ultimate turns her mech suit into a bomb that deals devastating damage to a medium to large radius, but it can also be blocked by shields or a perfectly timed bubble. For best results, combo her flying and her ultimate to throw her bomb to the back of the shields. She also has a passive second chance ability. When her mech suit's taken all her damage, she'll jump out of it, and have the ability to shoot people with a surprisingly powerful little pistol. You'll have to do this enough to recharge your mech, and be able to call in a new one. The downside is she has a very little amount of health while she's out of the mech, but calling in her mech suit near an enemy will cause the enemy to be crushed, giving you a free elimination. And her weapon of choice are the guns on her mech suit that shoot an unlimited amount of bullets, do not overheat, but they do very little damage. She can be played as a dive tank like Winston, diving to the back, trying to pick off squishy targets or healers, then retreating back. She can also fight on the front lines, pushing people back and eating as much damage as possible. That's up to you.
Beware of small mammals.
Hammond, aka Ball, is a fairly unique tank. His first ability is a grappling claw. He can attach to surfaces for a limited amount of time to gain momentum, roll quickly into enemies causing damage, or knockback, leading into his next ability, his slam. While in the air after grappling, he has the ability to ground slam, causing any enemies under him to take a bit of damage and temporarily tossed in the air and unable to move. This is usually comboed with his next ability, Adaptive Shield, which gives him extra temporary shield that acts as armor, and the amount he gets depends on how many enemies are in his radius. The more enemies near him, the more shield he will get. His weapon of choice are his fast shooting cannons that act as a hit scan and deal a medium amount of damage, good for finishing off low health enemies. His ultimate drops a widespread cluster of mines that deal massive damage when touched by players, but it can be destroyed by shields or simply people shooting them. His ability to either roll as the ball or walk in his little robotic legs make him a very mobile tank. He can either be used to push back the enemy team by rolling into them at high speeds, or getting behind them to distract them and have them chase you, because you're a lot faster than other people in this game, minus a few.
Zarya, ready for duty.
Zarya's first ability is her protection bubble. She can put this on herself and a teammate. She now has 2, increased from her 1 in Overwatch. This mitigates damage for a limited time, or until the bubble is popped from having too much damage. Her weapon of choice is a particle cannon that's a hit scan beam. It deals massive damage when fully charged, only dropping down slowly when an enemy isn't being attacked anymore. Secondary fire on her weapon launches particle balls that act as a projectile, having decent drop, dealing splash damage. It also has a slight knockback when you're hit. Now her ultimate is Graviton Surge, pulling everyone in a medium radius into the center of her gravity ball. Now she's very strong in the noob tank meta. I mean, she has a lot of damage and it's quite annoying to play against her. I actually hate playing against her, but that's because she's so good right now. I'm begging them to nerf her, please. Because right now she doesn't seem to have any major counters, so she just kind of does what she wants and no one can say a thing about it. Now, she's good at playing at the front line or in the middle of the team as long as you're using your bubbles on your teammates. And remember, well-timed bubbles can protect you from almost any ult.
Now, do you ever shut up?
More of a sponge that can do a crazy amount of damage. His weapon of choice is a scrap gun that fires like a shotgun for close range damage, and a secondary fire with a tighter spread for medium ranges. His first ability is a far-reaching hook to drag your enemies towards you, or to wherever you're facing. It acts as a projectile as well, and is very good, and annoying, for environmental kills. His next ability, and his most powerful, is his healing. When low health, you can take a huge inhaler type thing and quickly regen all your health, and reduce the damage you take for a short time. This allows you to be self-sufficient and stay alive much longer. Your job as Hog is to take as much damage as possible and just heal yourself, distracting the enemy so your team can take them out. His ultimate, Whole Hog, turns his gun into a Gatling gun type of thing that rapidly sprays shotgun pellets, dealing decent damage and dealing massive knockback. Very good for environmental kills or trapping someone in a corner until they die.
The Junker Queen stands with ya.
The newest tank just introduced in Overwatch 2. Her weapon of choice is a pump-action shotgun that does good damage at close distance. Her secondary fire throws an electric projectile knife that when stuck in an enemy can be recalled to pull the enemy closer, or you can leave it in them and deal some damage over time before being automatically recalled back. Her shout ability grants extra health and movement speed to herself and the team within the radius to allow them to live longer. Her final ability swings a giant hammer axe thing that does damage over time to any enemy hit by it, and her ultimate charges her forward, spinning her little hammer axe thing, dealing damage over time to anyone hit, and prevents healing for the duration of the ult. Her job seems to be DPS with the addition of her using her shout to give the team buffs. She's not really a tank that mitigates damage, but the health buff and the movement buff can definitely be useful.
My work is not done.
Doom is also new to the tank role, switching from DPS in Overwatch 1. Some say as of now he's very nerfed, and I would agree. He seems to be a lot weaker pick of the tanks, and that's coming from someone that absolutely fucking despised anyone who played him in Overwatch 1. I'm kidding, but I really hated him as a character, it was quite annoying. But I digress. His weapon of choice is his hand cannon that shoots shotgun pellets that does decent damage at close distances. His secondary ability, Rocket Punch, charges up a giant punch that will knock enemies, doing even more damage if the enemy hits a wall. The damage this does is toned down quite a bit, understandably. He was crazy overpowered. His next ability, Seismic Slam, lunges him forward, slamming the ground in front of enemies, dealing damage to any nearby targets and stunning them momentarily. His newest ability, Power Block, allows him to block attacks from the front for a short time. The more damage blocked, the more damage you can punch for a short amount of time. Your job as Doom is to use your punching to punch back anyone getting too close, and use your blocking to absorb as much damage as possible from hitting your backline. Now, Doom's ultimate, Meteor Strike, causes him to leap in the air and do ground pound damage to anyone in the radius. The closer to the center of the enemy is, the more damage it will do. This can also be used as a disengage to quickly get out of a tricky situation. Not someone I would recommend for new players, but if you want to try them, by all means give them a go. Now we'll go through the DPS.
Ashe here.
Ashe's weapon of choice, the Viper, a semi-automatic rifle. Zooming in increases damage and accuracy, but slows down the fire rate. But you also have the choice to hip fire for a little less damage. Her first ability is her coach gun. This can be used to knock back enemies that are getting too close to you, or throwing yourself in the air, or also shooting her next ability, Dynamite. Her dynamite has a short delay of explosion after being thrown, but you can trigger it immediately when it's shot. Getting the timing down for this sometimes is hard, but you want to practice throwing the dynamite over someone's head and scoping it and shooting it. When hitting a target, it will do some burn damage over time, and her ultimate is someone I wish was a playable character, Bob. He charges forward when you call him in, knocking any enemies he hits into the air. Then he temporarily acts like an auto turret, shooting anyone he sees. Ashe is definitely an aim hero, and it's going to take some mechanical skill. She does have a scope sensitivity you can play around with to get it to your liking. Some people like it slower when you zoom in, some people like it to stay the same. You just gotta find what's good for you. Ashe is still very effective from a medium to long range, so her job is to stand back behind the team and try to pick off as many people as she can with headshots. It typically takes 3 to 4 body shots or 1 to 2 headshots, but she's a good character with a high damage output if you can land the shots. Now let's talk about everyone's favorite, Bastion. I'm being facetious. A lot of people hate Bastion because his quote, no skill. Do I play him? Absolutely not. But I don't really care if you do. Bastion's been pretty tweaked from Overwatch 1 as well. His first ability turns him into a slow-moving cannon, whereas in Overwatch 1, when he turned into a cannon, he couldn't move anywhere, but now he can slowly move but with reduced damage. His weapon of choice is his arm yet again. It's quite a highly accurate weapon, doing decent damage when he's just standing and walking around. The new ability he has is a tactical grenade. It's a firebomb that bounces off walls that explodes when it impacts enemies or the ground. This is great for finishing off low HP targets, and in my opinion it is a lot more bearable than his self-healing in Overwatch 1. Now in this game they change his ultimate as well. He becomes an immobile mortar, able to fire 3 powerful shells that explode on impact. I think he's also pretty good as a beginner character if you're new to the game, so I think all you really need to worry about is just hitting your shots. I mean, I guess that's kind of anyone, but he has a better job doing it. He's highly accurate when you do land it, so yeah, just give him a try if you're new. Or don't and save yourself the bullying.
You know what time it is.
So Cassidy, aka McCree, his first name, which I always call him McCree, just I can't be bothered to call him Cassidy. I don't know who picked the name, no offense to any Cassidy, but why? Now McCree's another great pick for a starting player. His weapon of choice is his Peacekeeper revolver. It's very accurate and powerful. I mean, if you could land headshots, it's 2 headshots, just a couple body shots. His secondary fire unloads his full clip rapidly, but makes it a little bit inaccurate, so you have to be very close to your target. This rolls him rapidly in any direction he's moving in. This also insta-reloads his weapon, so a big combo on tanks is right-click, roll, and right-click again instantly. In Overwatch 2, they decided to take out all stuns, which I'm kinda cool with. So in the place of his stun, now he has a magnetic grenade. It's a short-range grenade that homes it on nearby enemies and deals additional damage if it sticks to them. So you don't have to aim it exactly at them, it'll find the body if you're close enough. Now his ultimate, Deadeye, he goes into this high noon Deadeye state. Well, I guess I just said the name of it. Roll credits. Where you'll watch small circles turn into the Deadeye symbol. Pulling the trigger will be an insta-kill, as long as they don't reflect it back at you or anything. This can lock onto all 5 enemies. Don't wait for all 5 enemies just to get it done. Even just 1 or 2 is a big impact in this game mode of 5v5. And if you hit your shots, you can gen your ult back fairly quickly. Just like Ashe, McCree can be played in the front line or medium. McCree's job is to break shields, pick off squishies, and try to help with the tanks.
Reverting personality? Echo online.
The copying robot. Her weapon of choice is a tri-shot, firing 3 shots at once in a triangle pattern, with her secondary being a volley of sticky bombs that detonate after a few seconds. This can be spread across multiple enemies or all in the same one for massive damage. Her next and most important ability allows her to be mobile and fly around freely. This only lasts so long you have to hold space to kind of glide in the air, and you'll slowly fall to the ground and be above the action. Now her next is a focusing beam. She channels a beam that deals very high damage to targets that are under half health. So you shouldn't use this to initiate a fight, but to end one. Her ultimate's quite interesting. She can become a clone of any hero she looks at. By doing so, she gets all the same abilities, but she charges her ult 10 times faster. 10 times not the exact number, I'm just kind of saying she charges it a lot faster. So for example, if she decides to use her ult on D.Va, she'll temporarily become D.Va, shoot the same as D.Va, fly the same as D.Va, and just after landing a few shots, she can have D.Va's ult and then bomb into the backline. She's an interesting hero. Her job is to just kind of fly around and pick off people. She's kind of a dive hero. She's kind of flying from above, poking off people.
Genji is with you.
Genji. Now, I'm a Genji main, along with a million other people. I thought he looked so cool, I thought he had a high skill ceiling. He's not someone I'd recommend as your first character playing. His weapon of choice are shurikens, which are projectiles. His primary fire throws an accurate burst of 3 projectiles, while his secondary fire throws a fan of 3 projectiles in an arc. So it's great to use when you're very close, so you want to burst when far away or fan when you're very close to finish up kills. His first ability is deflection. He pulls out his sword like a badass moving at the speed of light, and deflects incoming projectiles towards the direction he's aiming at. So if you're getting shot by a McCree, let's say, you can press deflect, look right back at him, and he'll kill himself, or do damage to himself at the very least. Or you can push it on his other teammate. Make him kill his teammate and you just laugh evilly and watch. His most powerful ability in my opinion is his Swift Strike, where he will rapidly dash forward and inflict damage. This is amazing for finishing kills, because every time you get a kill, it automatically resets and you don't have to wait the 10 seconds. So if you can just keep finishing kills, you can pretty much dash infinitely. Very hard to do, but it's possible. His movement's also amazing, as he can double jump and climb up on walls. Now let's talk about his ultimate. His Dragon Blade summons the spirit of dragons, possesses his blade, and it becomes a deadly swiping machine. Combo that with your Swift Strike's dashing, and you can easily rack up some good kills. Now, what's your job as Genji? I feel like he's very versatile, but I think he should either sit in the backline and do a lot of poke damage, or he should be sneaking around flanking and taking out squishies, like the little ninja he is. Again, he might be frustrating as a beginning hero to new players, but once you get into the game and you feel comfortable with it, definitely give him a try. I think you'll love him. Or hate him, it's one or the other.
Hanzo, at your service.
Now we move on to Genji's brother, Hanzo. Not a swordsman, but a marksman. His weapon of choice, his Stormbow. The longer you hold the charge, or letting it get to max, allows the projectile to go a lot further and do more damage. It does have a little bit of a drop. I'm not a master him by any means, so you just gotta play around with it, feel it out. His first ability is Storm Arrows. He fires 5 arrows instantly rapidly, but at reduced damage. These can also bounce off walls or a floor, but it's a good way to finish off targets that are low. Now, his last actual ability is his Sonic Arrow. This allows him to see anyone through a wall in the radius of his arrow for a short time. He does have similar passives as his brother, but instead of double jumping, he has a double lunge, and he can also wall climb. Now let's talk about his ultimate. He summons a power of dragons into his bow. This goes in a straight line, and it also goes through walls, dealing damage to anyone who stands in the path. Hanzo is definitely a ranged character, so I think chilling in the backlines maybe with your support, trying to get those picks, because it's a one-shot charged headshot for most heroes. Using his Storm Arrow is a great way to rapidly break down the enemy shield, helping your team get open shots.
Junkrat primed and ready.
Oh, moving on to the crazy Junkrat. His weapon of choice, of course, is his Frag Launcher, a bouncy explosive projectile weapon. I noticed that they made his projectiles drop a lot sooner, so you have to aim a bit higher for long distances. If you hit your enemy directly with these are devastating. But you can also bounce it off the ground and have it explode in front of them, and it'll still do a lot of damage. Combo with his first ability, a concussion mine. You can either throw it at an enemy and explode it, dealing a lot of damage, or you can throw it under yourself to launch yourself in the air, getting from place to place faster. You have 2 of these and they'll charge back over time, and these cannot hurt you as Junkrat, so don't worry about that. His last ability is a steel trap. For you can see it clearly, but for the enemies it kind of blunts into the ground. If they step in it, they're unable to move for a few seconds, making them vulnerable to attacks. I think it's definitely a good pick for a starting player, especially with his ultimate, the Riptire. Kind of gives the vibes of an RCXD if you ever played any of the Call of Duties. You drive and direct this exploding tire that does massive damage. Your goal with the tire is just to get in between as many people as possible. This tire can actually go up walls as well, so it makes getting around and sneaking around a lot easier. You don't want to drive it straight towards players because it can be shot and destroyed. Passive ability is when he dies, he drops a load of bombs, and if someone happens to be right in front of you when they kill you, that has a chance of killing them, with you having to do no work. How fucking awesome is that? I mean, not really for the people that gotta deal with it, but the people that gotta play it sick.
May checking in.
Oh, May, the Ice Queen, the fucking demon from hell. I hate okay, I don't hate her much anymore, but I'll tell you why I hated May. Because her main ability is a short-range spray weapon that slows enemies. She has a little ice gun, and it makes you slow, and it just feels weird. It sucks playing against. Her secondary fire is an icicle launcher. This is great for long range and does massive damage through headshots. May is also a great pick if you're new. She's pretty good all around. Now her next ability is her Cryo Freeze. She becomes invincible and heals herself slowly over time. The downside is you could have a whole team around you waiting for you to come out, and it's the most terrifying thing. Her last ability is a Wall of Ice, or Ice Wall. This blocks off an entrance and exit, blocks players from getting back to their teammates. It can be used in a bunch of ways. She can use it to boost herself up on ledges. There's many ways to do it. Just experiment with it. Just don't block off your teammates so you won't hear the end of it. Her ultimate throws her little robot pet Snowball, causing a blizzard in a wide area. This freezes any enemies inside, leaving them open for instant kills. Typically you want to right click their heads at this point. Now what is your job as Mei? Your job as Mei is to try to isolate as many of them as possible. See what I did there? Isolate? You can try to block off the enemy trying to get back to their team, and just hold left click to slow them and just bully them really. Your job is just to be a nuisance on this earth.
Pharah reporting.
Pharah. Oh, I hate Pharah, but I'll tell you about her still. She spends a lot of her time in the air, and if she's not, it's kind of weird. Her weapon of choice is her rocket launcher, used to shoot long-range explosives. It's also a projectile weapon, so you'll have to aim ahead to where you think they'll be by the time you hit the ground. Now, her first ability is a jump jet, giving you a rapid dash upwards in the air to allow you to stay up longer. You'll have to slowly tap your jump button to stay floating in the air as long as you can, or until jump jet recharges. Her next ability is her concussive blast. It launches an explosion that knocks enemies back, which is great for environmental kills, or just to get people off the point temporarily. Now her ultimate's probably one of the most riskiest ults I see. She's stuck midair in animation, and anyone can just shoot her out of the sky. So you want to mostly do this when no one knows you're there, or just a few people you think you can handle. Her job is just to do some damage from the sky, doesn't really matter who you're hitting, try to kill all the squishies you can, obviously, and just have people be like, why is no one taking care of the Pharah? Why can no one hit her? Please. Your job is just to be a nuisance from the sky, be a distraction, let your team handle it on the ground.
Reaper here.
Dead Man Walking, my first main in Overwatch ever. Then I stopped playing him forever and actually started playing him again in Overwatch 2 because he's actually very viable and very fun and a starter hero I would highly recommend. Let me tell you why. His weapon of choice is Hellfire shotguns, which is, short range shotguns. Now keep in mind the phrase short range because you have to be quite close for this to do damage, but he also has a nickname. The Tank Buster, and that's not without reason. He chunks health with these shotguns very quickly. It shoots slower than other weapons in the game, which gives you time to aim a little bit better, but made up a lot by the fact that these are devastating blows. His first ability is Shadow Step. You can teleport to a targeted location. You'll see it indicated with a little highlighter where you're going to land. Keep in mind, when you're in animation and just come out of animation, you can be damaged, so you want to try to be in a hidden space. It also gives a sound blip of when you come out of animation, so people most likely know where you are if you're close, but don't give them time to run. His next and OP ability is his Wraith form. For a few seconds he becomes invincible, moves faster, but you can't shoot. This is probably one of the best escape tools in the game. If you're losing a fight, which why would you ever with this masterpiece, you can Wraith form out of there, get back to your team, get some healing, and then rejoin the fight. I forgot to mention, he has a passive ability. Yeah, dealing damage actually heals you. He takes life from you and gives it to himself. It's not a bunch of health, but you can keep yourself alive if you can hit your shot. Some people don't know, when you're in your Wraith form, you actually automatically reload as well. So if you're fighting a tank and he's pretty low and you're out of bullets, quickly Wraith form, click the same button to get out of it, and finish shooting him. I do this all the time. This is my main purpose for it, or getting out of a bad situation. Now Reaper, he's the king of pressing Q on keyboard, or whatever ultimate button it is for you. His ultimate, Death Blossom, he just spins for a few seconds, shooting a shotgun everywhere in a big circle around him. He fucking Beyblades that shit, damaging everyone nearby. This can be deflected by people like Genji or absorbed by Sigma, but it does do a lot of damage at once. This can easily clear teams if it's not countered. I definitely recommend him being a first player's pick. What is your job as Reaper? Your job is to do one of two things. You should be up front, busting the tank down, just killing the tank over and over, making room for your team or your tank to push ahead. Or another playstyle is being very sneaky, being a little assassin, teleporting behind their team within reason, and picking off their healers and stuff, and then using Wraith form to get back to your team. So those are the two main ways you can play it. Whatever works best for you, whatever works best for the team.
Sojourn here.
Sojourn, a new addition to Overwatch, just joining us in Overwatch 2. Her weapon of choice being her railgun. She's similar to Soldier, except I think her left click is actually projectiles. She rapid fires projectiles to generate energy, and once her bar fills up to 100, it lets out a high impact shot that consumes the stored energy. This, when aimed at the head, does devastating damage. Now her first ability is a power slide. She gets rocket boosted forward, but she can also jump out of it and fly into the air. She has very good movement. Her next ability is kind of like a grenade. It launches an energy burst that snares and deals damage to enemies within it. This is good for maybe getting people away from you off the point. It has a big kind of cone radius. It's actually pretty decent. It's good for finishing off kills. She's just kind of a different pick than playing Soldier, which is the hit scan version of her. Her ultimate actually auto charges the railgun feature, allowing you to just keep tapping heads with it and insta-killing people. If you can hit your shots, she's a very good hero. Your job with her is about playing medium close range, but she's pretty effective from decently far away, so there's no need to get too close.
Soldier 76, reporting for duty.
Turning to the more new player friendly version is Soldier 76. With his heavy pulse rifle, it's an automatic assault weapon that's a hit scan and does a lot of damage when hitting headshots. His secondary fire, Helix rockets, launches a volley of explosive rockets at the enemy. This can either be hit directly or on the ground in front of the enemy and still deals a lot of damage, but this can also hurt you, so be careful not to be too close to it. Are you sick of walking slow with all these characters in the game? Well, play Soldier. He has an unlimited sprint ability, so you can just keep running and running and running until you're heart content. And one of his best abilities, his biotic field, actually deploys a field that heals yourself and your allies. Now his ultimate, the Tactical Visor, is basically just aimbot. So you just run down the map and hold left trigger and it'll automatically aim onto people, doing massive damage. It's actually crazy. This can be deflected by Genji, it can be eaten by Sigma, but still, if you can avoid that, then you're in good shape. This is definitely one of the heroes I would recommend for any new players. Your position is the same as Sojourn. You want to do medium to long range, and you want to make sure you are the one that's shooting the people out of the sky, like Pharah, Echo, anyone in the sky, it's on you to take them down.
Sombra online.
Now Sombra's actually got what I think is a huge buff in this game. Her weapon of choice is her machine pistol. It does medium damage with a high fire rate. That's not really what she's about. She's actually a stealth character. She can become invisible and run more quickly around the map. And what's her job, you may ask? Hacking people. Now she has a hacking ability that can temporarily disable any hero's ability, but you want to choose your hacks wisely. You can also hack healing kits, so only your team can use them and they regen faster. She has a passive that she does 40% more damage to enemies that are hacked. You can now hack while you're invisible. You will be shown while you hack, but instantly invisible again after. You want to find priority hacks, like people like Tracer that can't dash away anymore, we'll get to her in a minute, is a good pick. People like Reinhardt, where he can't use his shield for a few seconds. She's not really a high damage hero, where it doesn't matter how much damage you do with her, but if your hacks are good, that's all that matters. She has a translocator beacon, so she can set it down somewhere, but if she gets into a sticky situation, she can press her use button and be teleported back to wherever she threw it down, which typically is on a health pack, because if you need to use it to get out of a situation, you're probably low on health. Now her ultimate deals equal to 40% of all nearby enemies' health, hacking them and destroying barriers around them. This leaves anyone you hit in an ult vulnerable for a few seconds, so they're basically sitting ducks for you and your team to pick apart. She's a very high risk, high reward hero. Your job is just to go around in the back line, hack people, pick off healers, just be a nuisance.
Symmetra reporting.
Well, her weapon of choice is a photon projector, the short range beam that starts out low like Zarya and actually gets stronger the longer you're on your target. And the more you charge the beam, the stronger it gets and the more devastating your damage will be. You can hold down her secondary fire, form balls of energy, and do splash damage to people it hits as well. First ability, she's equipped with 3 sentry turrets. These are small turrets that will do damage to enemies walking by them and slow them down. Yes, it's really fucking annoying, but yes, they are easily destroyed with 1 bullet, or 1 melee. She can also create 2 temporary teleporters that allow instant travel between them. This is great for getting out of spawn quickly and closer to the point, or just sneaking up behind the whole team. Her ultimate is her photon barrier. It deploys a massive barrier of energy that enemies cannot shoot through. I would say she's actually pretty decent for a first hero as well if you want to give her a try. I feel like she's pretty forgiving, as long as you can kind of track with the beam. So yeah, give it a go. Her job is just to be a massive cut. Her job is to place her turrets in the choke, slowing down enemies, dealing damage, firing her energy balls from afar, using her laser up close to melt any enemies. You don't see her play too much anymore, but still not a terrible pick.
Torbjorn, ready to work.
Another good starter character is Torbjorn. His weapon of choice is the rivet gun. His primary shot's very good for long range and does massive damage to the head, whereas his secondary shot is very inaccurate short range burst, but it's very strong. One of his abilities, he has a self-building turret that will automatically lock on enemies that pass it. Yes, it's as annoying as it sounds, but have fun. It has a decent amount of health, but it doesn't matter because your next ability is a Forge Hammer. Not really an ability, but a secondary weapon. You can use this to hit people and do melee damage. There's not much point of it unless you're just having fun with it, but you can also use it to repair your turret's health, making sure it never goes down and making sure no one has a good time. I'm only half kidding. One of his strongest abilities is Overload. He gets additional health as well as improved attack, movement, and reload speed when in this state. So yeah, why not make this annoying cunt a tank as well? His ult is actually very good for clearing out points or blocking off entrances. He creates pools of molten lava on the ground, dealing damage to anyone who walks by. Additional damage to anyone who has armor. You have a select amount of it you can spew out, and you can put it wherever you want to. You can put it over multiple entrances, but you only have a few seconds to do so. Very good for a starter character. People might talk shit, but hey, don't listen to them.
Tracer here.
The face of Overwatch 1, Tracer. Yes, she has a blink ability that teleports her in the direction she's moving in. She can use 3 at a time before she has to wait for them to regen. This instantly teleports her a certain distance forward, backwards, left, right, whatever way she's going. Her weapon of choices are pulse pistols, very short range automatic weapons, but chunk away health rather quickly due to the high fire rate. She has a little lifesaver called Recall. It lets her travel back in time to her previous location and health within a certain time span. It lets her travel, let's say, 5 seconds back in time to the health she had before. So if you get into a fight, you're like, oh, I got 1 HP now. Let's go back to when I had full HP. Boom, doesn't matter. Cool, none of it happened. Try again. Your job is to be a nuisance. You want to blink around the back so no one can hit you. Try to kill the support characters that aren't paying attention. Killing the support characters means they have no healing, and no healing wins fights, or loses fights, depending on what side it is. She's a harder hero to learn the blinks of, and her ultimate's not that easy either. Her ultimate, a pulse bomb, throws out a powerful sticky explosive. Did someone say sticky? Like a Cemtex of sorts? But this is a projectile and it has massive drops, so you have to be rather close. A good strat is to blink in, throw it on them, and use your recall so you don't get killed by it, because you can be damaged by your own pulse bomb. This can turn team fights, and it can be built up pretty quickly due to her fast fire rate and poking damage. She's a decent pick in most comps, you just gotta know how to play her.
Widowmaker here.
Now finally, our last DPS on the list, one of my favorites but actually makes me a little sad in Overwatch 2, is Widowmaker. Why does she make me sad in Overwatch 2? It's because I like playing Widowmaker. She's my second most played hero, but now that it's a 5v5, on one hand, it makes your kills more impactful. Turn team fights if you just get 1 kill opposed to when it's a 6v6. But also, it feels like there's more pressure for me to actually hit my shots because there's not one more tank to blame for me missing my shots. You know what I mean? Her main weapon is a sniper rifle mixed with an assault rifle. Hold her primary fire to just fire the weapon as an assault rifle, dealing very low damage but getting the job done if they're up close. Or you can hold your secondary fire and turn it into a sniper rifle, scoping in, trying to land headshots for instant kills. She is a very mechanical skilled hero, and it's not quite like sniping in other games because there's a lot more movement in Overwatch, a lot of jumping, ducking, gliding, parachuting, I don't fucking know. But it's harder to hit shots in this game for sure. It's a little bit easier now that there's only 1 tank, but now that there is only 1 tank, there's 1 less shield to deal with, so she has a little more range. So if you can hit your shot, she's a crazy deadly hero to play. Her first ability is a grappling hook that can get you to high ground very quickly. Look at the ledge you want to go on, click it, and it'll automatically pull you up. But if you jump just right when you're about to get to the ledge, it will throw you high in the air, allowing you to take a shot mid-air. It's something you definitely got to practice. It's going to become second nature the more you do it, but it's hard to do at first, so please don't be discouraged. She's also equipped with a venom mine. It's a poison trap. The best way to use this, put it somewhere in your flank because you get the notification when it's been triggered. It lets you know someone's coming to flank you. But using it on your flank is probably the most effective. Now her ultimate provides her with Nadia 2.0, wall hacks, and it provides your team with a view of the enemy's location through wall 2, not just yourself. Your team can see where everyone is for a limited time. This helps you line up your headshots before people even come around the corner and know what's going to happen. Her job is to sit in the back line and try to pick off squishies when she can. Getting those instant headshots, she can really turn a team fight quickly. If you have the mechanical skill, definitely practice her. You will not be sorry. She is fun to play when you're not getting dove by everyone in the game thinking you're free kills. Any diving tank, anyone who's trying to get the back line, you will be their target because it's very hard to hit the sniper shots up close. But just practice, have fun.
Anna checking in.
Now finally moving on to the supports of the game. Starting with Ana, her weapon of choice is her biotic rifle, which can be zoomed in like a sniper or just hip fired. This gun heals allies and damages enemies. Scoping in helps the long range aspect, but enemies can see your tracer shots so they know where you're shooting from. But if you hip fire your heals, it actually won't show up. It'll just instantly hear your teammates and you can keep your position a secret. She actually has one of the best abilities in Overwatch in general, her sleep dart. She fires a dart that puts an enemy to sleep, stopping them in their tracks no matter what they're doing. This can completely cancel ults, this can stop an attack from happening, this can ensure easy kills. It's an absolutely must-have on a team. It's a projectile, but once you learn how to use it and you can hit those sleeps constantly, your team's gonna love you for it. She has high healing output, so she's a good healer to pick. Next ability is a Biotonic Grenade. This grenade heals and increases healing on allies, and it also damages and prevents healing on enemies. So this is great for your tanks. You throw it on your tank, it allows you to heal your tanks up faster with each shot. But you can also throw it on someone like Roadhog who constantly heals himself, and then Roadhog won't be able to heal himself for a short amount of time. Ana also having one of the best ultimates in the game in my opinion. This is a completely unselfish ultimate. It increases an ally's damage while reduce the damage they take. So pairing this up with someone else's ultimate, putting it on a Bob that Ashe throws down, having it do more damage. A very popular one is Nano Blade, where you nano a Genji when he's about to ultimate, allowing his blade just to shred through anyone. Another huge one is nanoing a Reinhardt, him doing so much damage, taking no damage. He's an unstoppable final boss. I think Ana is definitely underappreciated and underrated. Definitely an S tier hero. You should definitely give it a try. Her aimed in healing is hit scan, so you just gotta hit directly on them. There's no bleeding like a projectile. Her job is to stay in the very back line and snipe heals into the team, and not wasting her sleep but keeping it on anyone who's trying to dive her, to let her get away, or anyone who's ulting to save the team. She's just that healer.
Baptiste here.
Moving on to Baptiste, that almost feels like a DPS more than a healer. His weapon of choice is Biotic Launcher, a 3-round burst gun that does massive damage, especially with headshots, with his secondary fire being healing balls. This is a projectile, but shooting it on the ground also works. One of his abilities is a regen burst. Using this heals himself and nearby teammates instantly, also adding healing over time. Instant heal is doubled for targets less than half health, so he's really good at clutch saving. Speaking of clutch saving, his next ability, Immortality Field, tosses down a field that can prevent allies from being killed. It can be destroyed by being shot a bit, but perfectly timed against some ults can really make or break a game. This is also one of the best abilities in the game. He also has decent mobility, as he can hold down crouch and jump into the air higher than Jordan himself. This allows for good overhead healing, so you can just shoot down on the ground and make sure everyone gets their healing without worrying about if you're going to miss or not. His ultimate can be put to good use as well. While shooting through his matrix, it doubles the damage or healing effects of everything that goes through. It's a very good ultimate if you're going to be stationary. When you're on the move, it might not be the best because you're going to put it down, the fight's going to move, and then no one's going to shoot through it. Make sure to put your jumping to good use, jump in the air and shoot down on anyone who might need it, and really get good at timing your immortality field because it can really flip the tide of games. If a diva bomb is about to explode, everyone's next to you, quickly throw it down on the ground, no one's going to die.
Brigitte at your service.
Next up is the Overwatch 1 killer Brigitte, or Brigitte. Everyone says their name a little bit differently. I really don't care one way or another. I personally never really cared for her, but let's go over her anyway. Her weapon of choice is a rocket flail, melee weapon with extended range. It does not do a lot of damage, but it does enough to be really fucking annoying. She also has a repair pack that heals an ally for a short duration. It doesn't do a lot. I think the main thing in her kit is her whip shot. She can knock enemies back away from you off the edge for environmental kills pretty easily. It's a good ability, I'll give her that. She has a very small shield that doesn't really block too much damage, maybe just enough to close the gap on people you need to. She also has a shield bash ability when her barrier is up to knock back enemies. It used to stun them, but they did take the stunning out of Overwatch 2. But her main niche is her passive ability, Inspire. While swinging your melee at enemies, it also heals nearby allies as well. Her ultimate ability, Rally, allows her to move faster and provide extra health to nearby allies. So what's your job as her? Sit in the backline? Well, actually no, not this time, because that'd be counterproductive. She heals when she hits targets, so you almost should be right behind the tank swinging through the shield as much as you can, or just getting hits off as you can. Or better yet, probably just don't play Brig at all and we'll call it a day. No, but definitely give her a try if you find her interesting.
Let the Kitsune guide you.
The newest edition of the healers sweeping the nation from Japan, it's Kiriko. Yes, you've probably heard this name 20 million times by now because that's all anyone's talking about, the little fox girl healer. Her weapon of choice is actually a kunai, which is actually really fucking overpowered. I'm sure they might change it in the future, maybe not. Her healing output's actually very mid. It could be a lot better. There's better healers for sure, but her healing does do okay, but where she really shines is her kunai. It is a projectile, but it deals increased critical damage, meaning if you hit a headshot, my god, say goodbye to your life. This is a 2-shot headshot, and it's just GG for you. This can bust down a tank very quickly if you land those headshots. It will take some practice because it is a projectile, and people do move around a lot in this game, just like any other projectile hero. It's harder than it looks, but let's talk about her healing a little bit. Her healing, she has a healing Ufuda. I don't think I said that right, but she has these little receipts or something, little pieces of paper, and she channels a burst of healing, and they actually seek your allies. So if you throw it towards the general direction of your team, the paper will go find them, which is actually kind of cool. It doesn't do a lot of healing at once, but it does enough. It's a pretty cool ability, but not as cool as your next ability, which is Swift Step, which is just a blatant, like, fuck you to Reaper. My god, it can teleport directly to an ally through a wall even if they're in range, and this allows you to get out of fights very quickly or rejoin the fight really quickly and do some healing is actually very good. Her next ability, her Protection Suju. She throws a protective charm to make allies briefly invincible and cleanse some negative effects. Now this is a huge ability for Overwatch, but the key is to have a player who knows when to use it, how to use it. This is probably now one of the best abilities in the game as well. This ability can wake you up from round shatter, on a sleep, Zen's negative orb on you. It can cleanse you of any negative effect, any damage over time on you, any anti-healing on you. It can do so much. Also, if timed perfectly, it can actually stop your whole team from dying to an ultimate as well, because it's a splash, so anyone in the radius is cleansed by it. And I'm actually really excited to see some big plays come from this. I'm not a healer, but if I had to pick a healer that I could be good at, it would be her. I will never be good at her. I played one game and almost cried myself to sleep. Oh, let's not even talk about her ultimate. Her ultimate is actually insane. She summons a Fox Spear that rushes forward, accelerating the movement, attack speed, and cooldowns of allies that are in the path. Anytime I play Reaper and I have someone use that ultimate, oh my god, Reaper shoots so quickly, melting anyone in his way. So I think a very good Kiriko is a must-have on any team. And I mean very good. Now, when I say this is a beginner hero, maybe. I think anyone can play her if you practice her a bit. I feel like her abilities are pretty straightforward. Or healing's pretty straightforward. It's actually just the kunai that you're gonna have to practice a little bit. Jeez, I don't know why I was so passionate about her. I have like fucking 10 minutes played on her, and I just Kiriko's playstyle is definitely staying with the team. You have the shadow step to get in and out if you do get a little bit separated. You should not be going to their spawn trying to pick off kills just because you can with your high damage. You are still a healer first and a damage second. Please don't forget that. That goes with everyone in the healing list. Definitely, please do damage if you see the opportunity. No one needs health. Do your thing. It definitely helps the team. But please remember you need to heal first and damage second, because some people seem to forget that, and it gets a little dicey, and then it starts fights, and it's like, oh, I did more damage than you, but I'm a support. Well, also you did 1,000 healing, so come on.
Can I get a beat?
One of my support mains when I first started playing Overwatch, Lucio. His weapon of choice is a sonic amplifier shooting burst music at him, I guess. I don't know, it's really cool. His abilities switches between two songs, a healing boost or a speed boost, making your allies move faster or healing them up really quickly. Paired with his next ability, Amp It Up, increasing the effectiveness of the current song, meaning you go even faster or heal even more of anyone in your radius, and it's a very big radius, so he's really good at mass healing, getting tanks from spawn back to the point. He's just a very good pick overall. I feel like you can't really go wrong with him, and he can wall ride. If you're smooth on the wall, you're just very hard to get taken down because no one can catch you, no one can aim and hit you. It's just, I'm sure everyone's seen like the Reddit Lucio clips, just kind of insane. Secondary fire sound wave creates a short blast to knock enemies away from you. This is great for environmental kills, probably the best environmental killist on the list, in my opinion. It might be debatable, but I'm just gonna stick with it. His right click sends people so far, and it's just great for booping people off the map. People used to fight to play Lucio on certain maps just to get the boops because it's so satisfying. And his ultimate is definitely a game changer as well. Sound barrier creates temporary extra health for all nearby allies. And extra health is right, it gives you quite a bit. The radius is pretty big, so the whole team can get like an extra 400 health. That might be an exaggeration, I'm just kind of saying, but it can definitely turn the tide of a fight, and it's just a must need. You should always have your healing on if you're on a point fighting. Feel free to left click shoot. Feel free to use your primary and shoot. It does a lot of damage actually if you hit the headshots, but just make sure your healing's on and just use your boost when needed. He's kind of one of those people you don't have to think about healing too much. As long as everyone's in your circle and you have your healing on, you're good to go. You should only really have speed on when you're going from point A to point B. You're trying to get away from something. You don't want to sit there fighting people with your speed on when you could just be healing people passively. You can play a little not in the back line, I guess, with Lucio. You can kind of fly around and just kind of annoy people, do some poke damage, trying to boop them towards your team a little bit, and just because you have a quick retreat to get back to your team, so you're okay. But also, just make sure you're healing. It's hard to say how to play him exactly because there's just so many different playstyles you could go for. But at the end of the day, just make sure you're healing your team and then doing damage second. That's all I gotta say.
Mercy on call.
The power healer of the game, I'd say. What she does best is healing and damage boost. She has a very, very high healing output, probably one of the best in the game. Her Caduceus staff is her weapon of choice. Her primary fire is actually just a beam that connects to an ally that you can just heal. You can use it constantly heal. It does not run out. You never have to let go. You can just stay there forever. or you can use your secondary fire, which power boosts them, giving whoever you're boosting more damage. So she's really just, you can't go wrong with her. She's fantastic. She has a secondary blaster. It's an automatic pistol. It actually does quite a bit of damage if you chunk it on the head. The aim hitbox is a little weird. You have to aim like quite a bit above their head to hit sometimes, but you know, nonetheless, it is very strong. Again, you're a healer first, damage second. Please just don't be a pistol, mercy. Also, one of the best abilities in the game, definitely top 5, is she has a resurrect, revive a dead teammate. This could save so much time. It can flip a fight. If someone has ultimate, you bring it back to life in the middle of a team fight. Please don't rest someone in the middle of like there being 10 people around you and he's gonna die again anyway, because my god, you're just setting us up for failure. But no, more or less the res is always good, except when it's not, you know. She has a little passive ability of jumping off a cliff. You can fall very slowly if you want to by holding space. Kind of just makes you a still target. I don't know why you really want to do it. I'm sure there's situations you can do it, but one of her best abilities is her Guardian Angel. You can actually fly towards one of your allies that are in range. You look at them, activate your ability, it'll fly you towards them, and you can crouch mid-flight and it'll throw you in the air. It'll bunny hop you. They made it a lot easier in this game. Overwatch 1, you had to do a little combo to get thrown in the air like that, but they made it super simple. Her movement's incredible now. People tend not to like her because all she does is really heal. You're not really supposed to be using your pistol like that. You should just focus on healing and rezzing. Placement is key. If you're in the front line, you're fucked. You're doing it wrong. You need to be in the back line. You need to make sure you're with someone. You need to make sure you're at an angle. You're kind of hiding behind a wall, but still healing people, because you're still squishy and you can still die pretty easily. Now, if you want the time to pistol, using your ultimate Valkyrie would be the time to do it, because your abilities are enhanced and you're able to fly around freely. So a lot of people like to pull out their pistol. They like to murk people in the head with the infinite blaster. It does a lot of damage. It shuts down people. It also makes your healing output a lot stronger, but it's a really good ult and it keeps people alive. You fly around really fast. It's great. Play Mercy 10 out of 10. Very good starter healer. You just got to learn positioning a little bit and just to stay in the back line and stay with someone, and that's just your only job.
Moira by your side.
All right, we're almost done this list. We got Moira. She gets a lot of slack because people have the problem, like I say, they do more damage than they do heal, but how can you not when her damage is so crazy? Her weapon of choice is her Biotic Grasp. Holding her primary fire heals all enemies in front of you, but it consumes a bit of energy, so to get it back you have to use your secondary fire, which is a beam weapon that comes out of her wrist. It's unlimited and it does a lot of damage, and you don't have to aim it. It just connects to the nearest enemy, which is why she gets a lot of flack. It really doesn't take much skill just to hold right click and just drain their life force and then, you know, give it to your teammate. It's cool. She's a good healer. She's definitely a great healer if you heal. She also gets these orbs. It can be damage orbs or healing orbs depending if you primary or secondary fire. The damage orbs go in their spawn and slowly do damage over time until they wither out or bounce out of range. Same with the healing with your teammate. They bounce around and heal your team, which you should be using most of the time to keep your team alive during fights, but people like to go for that damage. And she has one of the best disengages in the game. Her fade, she disappears for half a second. You move really fast, become invisible. You can't shoot during it, but you dash forward or backward quite a good distance. It lets you get away fast. You move very quickly, and it's a very good disengage. Also, if it's timed right, what I do a lot if I do play her, because she is kind of easy to play and I'm not much of a support player, so I just try to play her. She's a good starter hero, so I definitely recommend it. If there's an ult, like let's say a diva bomb is about to explode, you know it's about to explode, you know the timing or anything, press it right before it explodes. You're invincible. It doesn't hurt you. I do this all the time. It's great. Now, her ultimate is actually very interesting and cool. She fires one big long beam that heals allies and damages enemies, so if you can get your allies in the beam to heal them and get the enemies in to damage them at the same time, even better. Best of both worlds. It's a really good ult. It can also be shut down by a sleep, but it can go through shields and stuff, so you're really invincible when you do it a little bit, and you can move around while you're doing it. You're not stuck in one position. So just please make sure you're healing your team. I know you can get carried away right-clicking, going in their spawn, trying to kill everyone, because you can do that, but you're going to hear a lot of shit from your team when you have like 2,000 healing and 20,000 damage. But, you know, to each their own. Do your thing.
Zenyatta is here.
The robotic monk that can walk and just chooses not to, levitates on the ground with the kick of a god. His weapon of choice is his Orbs of Destruction, an energy projectile weapon. It is a projectile weapon. You have to aim ahead or behind or whatever, make sure they walk into it. It does quite a bit of damage for his support. A lot of damage. His secondary fire charges his shot, and this does devastating damage if you land all of them. You'll see the 6 balls light up blue, and once they're all lit up blue, it'll automatically let it go for you. And if you land it on the head, there's like almost no one you can't take out, except some of the tanks, obviously, or even the body. If you let them all in the body, it takes squishies out easy. It's actually very overpowered. He has one of the best abilities in the game as well. He has an Orb of Discord. This orb launches at enemies, increases the damage that they take. So put it on a tank during the game and let your team go after the tank, and that that tank is going to go down a lot faster. Now his healing output's not amazing because you can heal one person at a time, but his Orb of Harmony, which just slowly heals whoever it's on, you can change who it's on rapidly, but it's not good for overall like group healing. It's definitely a one person at a time. You put it on a tank, keep them alive during a fight. It's definitely a situational kind of thing. He just got a passive of a kick. His melee, which is his kick, is increased damage by 50%, and he has a knockback ability, so just his melee can boop people almost as far as like Lucio can boop them with his right click ability, which is insane. It's going to make for really good environmental kills. I haven't got a chance to try this yet, but I do like playing Zed. He is really just a damage hero with just some healing on the side. He's one of the exceptions. If you want to do DPS, just throw your healing orb on someone and just focus on spamming balls at the enemy, really. But let's talk about his ult. His ult actually quite good if you use it in the right situations. You become invulnerable, you can't get touched, you move faster, and you heal nearby enemies so rapidly that there's a hard chance of them dying while they're standing inside of your radius. For example, if a Reaper comes up between all of you and starts ulting, quickly pop it and you just heal way faster than they can do damage. However, if it's something like a Diva Bomb and it's quick explosive damage, then there's still probably a high chance everyone could die, but not you because you're invincible for the duration of the ultimate. Your job is to definitely just sit in the back line because you are squishy, you are very slow, so you can't really get away fast. You want to sit in the back line, make sure you always have a ball on one of your teammates, and you want to throw your Discord orb on whoever they're fighting at the time. So if everyone's fighting the same enemy, throw it on them, help your team kill them faster, and you're good to go. Now I'm just going to show you some of the settings that I think you maybe should have. It's totally up to you if you use it or not. Right now, actually, this should be on full screen, but right now I just don't feel like tapping out constantly, so I have mine board this window. But for the least input lag, you want to have it on full screen. This will help, like, stop the jitters of your aim. This is for PC, by the way. I don't really know much about console settings, so I'm sorry about that. Field of view I always have on max. I like to see around me the most I can. Dynamic render scale, actually, you want to turn that off. I hear that actually helps a bit with it off. It helps with some of the floaty aim issues. You always want to have VSync off. I have triple buffering off. None of this really matters. This part just kind of, your preference. I just kind of have the, all of it on default. Sound, sound, just do what you want for sound. But once in a while, I play 1000 DPI. I play around 6, but like if heroes like, Genji, I'll play it. This is really oddly specific. I kind of tweak it to what feels good at the moment. There's some people I play higher than others. I like have Tracer at 7. So just people you need to turn with really quickly. I play a bit higher, but everyone else I play about a 6. This is just kind of the crosshair I'm using right now. I have been having 2 thickness. For some reason, I can't see the crosshair as well as Overwatch 1. I don't know what it is. But I have 2 thickness sometimes. Sometimes I go 1. It's totally up to you. 1 I think looks better, but 2 I can see better. I'll get to the point why in a minute. You have these chats. You have the option to hide chat if you don't want to see people typing at all, because people can be toxic and it can be annoying. So just have something you can toggle it on and off, but maybe you won't hit it accidentally. Under gameplay, I've heard different things. Some people like having precision mouse input on or off. On a PC, it can track your mouse a little bit easier, and with more frames, you have it on. So for a little more precision, I like to have it on. Now down here under HUD and gameplay, it's under gameplay, you want to go to under HUD, and one thing you really do want to change is in world, waypoint opacity, you want to have it about 20, respawn, you want to have it about 23. With the opacity all the way up, you want to actually be able to see what's going on half the time. It's going to be blocking your screen. So you just want to have these kind of down so you can see through. And the only other biggest things is under accessibility. Under general, you want to have camera shake as reduced because this can actually make it so your aim's not that great. It's kind of hurts to see. And HUD shake off. You can actually keep that on if you want to. This one's personal preference, doesn't really affect your aim, but I just like to have it off so there's just no random movement. But always keep this reduced. It'll help your aim a lot. Color blindness, I would recommend having enemy UI color to like yellow or gold perhaps. Just anything that's bright and you can see a lot easier than the default red. This pops a lot more so you can quickly see an enemy. But it's definitely personal preference. For the less input lag, I play on low and just have my texture quality on high and leave everything else as the default on low, because the game still looks really good like this, and there's just no need to have all this up on high. It can kind of cause input lag or maybe less frames, and I'm just not really about that. Also, for PC players, you want to come down to controls in general, and you want to go to advanced under here under controller, and you want to make sure aim smoothing is completely down. This is a controller option, but some people have had issues with floaty aim with this setting being on, so might as well be safe than sorry. If you're a controller player, you do not want to turn this down. This is going to mess up your aim a lot, so keep that on if you're a controller player, but if you're PC, turn it all the way down, and it might help, and it doesn't hurt anything if it doesn't do anything. So under video and video, you can come down here to frame rate, and you can change it from automatic to custom if you want to set a specific frame rate. I have a 144 monitor, so I usually just kind of max it out at 150 because there's really no need to go above it. But yeah, you just kind of keep it whatever you want to. It doesn't matter too much. Last thing I want to say to any new players or returning players, just remember, quick play is a place to have fun, try new people, so don't let people make you feel bad about who you play. If you're doing bad, it's really whatever. At the end of the day, it can be frustrating, I know. People talk shit to me a lot, even if I'm doing really well, just because I'm like, you know, oh, you're getting easy kills because I wasn't paying attention. I had a fucking butt plug in my ass. I wasn't ready. I don't know. But people like to make excuses and be mad at the game. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter that much. There's an influx of new players, so don't be scared to play who you want to play. Learn, because that's the only way you're going to get better. It's just to play it, learn how to play it. Go ahead and hide the chat if you don't want to see it at all. Don't let it ruin your time. Welcome to Overwatch 2. I hope we have a fun time. It's been your sticky friend Cemtex, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know if you learned anything down below. I'd appreciate it a lot. And until next time, yeah, peace out.